I spent a lot of time rebuilding the absolute cheapest Porsche 911 turbos I could find. This 07 997 turbo with 57,000 miles, and this 01 996 turbo with 151,000 miles. The cars are very similar, but also yet very different. And here's what I learned. You know what they say, the cheapest Porsche you can find is actually the most expensive, and I'll let you guys know if that was actually true with both of these cars.
Both of these cars needed mountains of work to get them where they are today. I got my 996 back in the summer of 2022, and it's basically been an ongoing project ever since, but it has been a decently reliable and fun daily driver. Now the 997 I got the summer of last year, and I just now got it pretty much dialed on the road and finished, and it's been a fantastic daily as well. It just needs a couple minor touches to really check all the boxes and call it a reliable DD. And these were my first ever Porsches. I've never worked on any before these, so it was a huge learning curve, but I'm so happy I got both of these. It's been quite the adventure. Since I'm fortunate enough to own both a 996 and a 997 turbo, I get asked all the time, Matt, can you do a comparison video? Which one is better? Which one are you keeping and why? And I'm going to go over all that in this video.
Starting with the exterior, the 997 takes the cake. It's got proper round headlights. I know I'll get flamed for this. It's got a better front bumper. It's got a better rear bumper. It has better mirrors, and it has better taillights. I mean, but the margins are really, really close. The 996 looks incredible too, and I would almost choose the 996 because it's speed yellow, and it has the absolute most beautiful, perfect set of wheels you could put on any Porsche. I'm following behind the 996 right now, and it just sounds and looks so freaking good. Yeah, it does sound better than this car. Comparing these cars is not easy. I mean, this is obviously a whole generation newer than the 996, and it comes with a whole bunch of updates that make everything about this car better. I mean, look at the road presence of that thing. I mean, you guys can hate the wing if you want, but I think it looks freaking sweet. I love it. That doesn't mean I'll never ever get the factory turbo wing on that car, but for now, that wing came with the 997, which means it was free, where a turbo wing is not free. Not at all. In fact, they're about $3,000, and that's without even having it painted, and probably without working hydraulics. But it's not necessarily an easy choice. After all, the 996 is my first ever Porsche, and it's speed yellow. The 996, my first Porsche, I mean, you can't ever replicate that, but there is a pretty massive difference between this car and the 997 in a lot of ways. However, the interior is where these cars differ totally, completely, and it's not even close. The 997 takes the cake.
The 996 just has a better steering wheel.
The interior of this car, point blank, just kind of sucks. It's kind of like Honda Civic level of interior. I've done some things to make it a little better, recovered the seats, added some carbon fiber touches, added a nice double-in Apple CarPlay unit, but it's like putting lipstick on a pig. If the interiors of these cars were the same, I might even keep the 996 instead of this car, but the interior in this car is just so much better. The 997 interior is absolutely beautiful. It's higher quality, it's got better tech, and, well, mine is terracotta, which is just like the most perfect, unique interior color. I absolutely love it. There's nothing wrong with a black interior, but the 996 interior just pales in complete comparison to the 997.
No, the shifter is better in this car. More positive engagement, longer throw that actually makes it easier. The clutch is better in this car. Throttle response is better in this car.
The 996 just kind of looks like it was designed in the 90s, which I guess it really was.
Now, I help both of these Porsches back to life, but what's even more important is mental health, and that's where the sponsor of this video, BetterHelp, comes into play. And if you're not familiar with BetterHelp, it's a platform where therapists and clients can communicate effectively and get the most out of therapy. Whether you're feeling extra stressed, you have some relationship problems, or just want to talk to a therapist, BetterHelp can help you in that regard. They really are a tool for personal growth. And you don't need a clinical mental health issue to talk to a therapist. It's literally for anyone. BetterHelp is on a mission to make therapy easier. They also make it easy in the way of all you have to do is fill out a questionnaire and you'll match with the therapist in just a few days. What I think is awesome is you can chat with a therapist just on your phone like a simple text message. That way you can do it at a convenient time for you. And one of the best features is if you don't feel like your therapist is a fit, you can easily find another one through BetterHelp that you really connect with. So if you're struggling and think you benefit from a therapy session, click the link in the description or go to betterhelp.com/Matt Ross and get 10% off your first month of therapy.
The brakes on these cars are basically the same thing. Renline rotors and Hawk HPS pads. Obviously, I haven't driven either of these on a track, but I mean, braking on both of them is pretty much the same. Suspension is a little tricky because my 997 has the active dampening, if that's what you want to call it, where you can change the setting of the shocks via just a button inside, and you can actually tune it with an aftermarket controller, whereas the 996 doesn't have any of that. But having the electronic controlled dampers in this car makes it a decent amount more comfortable than the 996, plus I can change it. I can make it stiffer and softer.
I will say the 996, maybe because it's lower, did feel more poised. This felt more comfortable to drive, but the 996 I felt like had more confidence in the corner.
Overall handling is just, I don't think quite as good as the 7. It's slightly stiffer, but I don't think handles quite as sharp. But it still handles excellent. But my 996 has the best of the best coilovers, KW V3s with reservoirs. This thing rides amazing. I just wish it had some type of active tuning like the 997, so I'm gonna call this one a draw. Audio in these cars really isn't even a comparison either. While I did upgrade the amp and all the speakers and the head unit in the 996, it sounds a lot better than what it did. It's nowhere close to the 997's stock Bose interior. It's got the stock dual Bose subs in the rear, but all the speakers are stock and it sounds incredible. It's one of the best sounding stock audio systems I've ever experienced, and I absolutely love it. This might actually surprise a few of you, and it surprised me. The 996 sounds way better than the 997, exhaust-wise. I really don't know why. They both have almost the exact same JC Hutch exhaust. Woo! That car sounds so good. I can hear it from inside this one. I don't know if you could beat the sound of 996 turbo. It just sounds incredible. The 996 just has a better tone, better turbo noise, better everything. I'm assuming because these newer turbos are variable geometry where the old ones are not. Now, in the future, if and when I upgrade these turbos, hopefully it changes the sound a little bit. And that's not to say that this car sounds bad, it just pales in comparison to the 996. The 997 might not sound as good as the 996, but power and acceleration between these cars couldn't be any more different. The 996 does have a tune, and it's probably making about 450 to 475 horsepower, where the 997 has some more work done to it, and it's a newer car. It's probably about 600 horsepower, and man, this thing absolutely rips. It'll smoke the 996 in any situation. This thing hooks and it pulls. It absolutely blows me away.
The throttle response in this car with a second gear roll on, I've never been pushed back in my seat like that in any car. It just takes off.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things. Like, this car doesn't make crazy power, but it just hooks. It just goes.
Have about, let's say, maybe a half second to stiffen up your neck and your core, because you know the turbo is about to be spooled up, and you nail the throttle and you hear the whistle and you know you're about to be glued to your seat, and then you are.
Because it doesn't make a ton of power, but just the fact that it hooks so well, it really sets you back in the seat. It's incredible. I love it. Comfort and features of these cars, like I said, the 997 interior is way better than the 996. However, the 996 has heated seats and the 7 doesn't. Now, I would like to upgrade these to heated seats in the future. That's probably going to be a lot of work, and that's just way on the back burner. But the 997 has way more features on the interior, electronics, etc. It's got the chrono gauge, obviously, all of that stuff. I really wish this had heated seats, but still, the 997 takes the cake with features and interior functions. If we're talking reliability, technically the 996 has never ever let me sit at 151,000 miles. The 997, well, I can't say the same for that, but to be fair, when it broke down, it was my fault because I JB welded a fuel line back together. But as far as reliability, I'm assuming these are both going to be pretty similar. They're both Metzger engines. That's my hope, at least. I do have to give some credit to the 996 when it comes to working on the car as just a YouTube mechanic. This car is just ever so slightly easier to work on, and that's evident when you go with the spark plugs. When I did the spark plug and coil packs on both of these cars, this car took probably a third of the time that the 997 took. The 997 just has so much more crap packed in the back there, but overall, other than that, they're probably pretty similar working on the wives, but when you get more functions, more features, the car's just gonna be harder to work on. Plus, newer cars just keep getting more and more difficult as time goes on. The reality of both of these is if you want to do any kind of service work to the engine or transmission, you should just drop it all as a whole, because when I did the clutch job on this, I took the tranny off the engine. In reality, looking back, I should have just dropped the tranny and engine together as a whole assembly. Now, a big deciding factor with comparing these cars back to back is cost. And what's kind of crazy is I have a lot less money into the 997 than I do the 996. I know that sounds wild, but it's absolutely true. I bought this car for less money than the 996, and I put less money in it. If you're looking at a 996 turbo in good condition, I mean, you're talking $60,000, $70,000. Their prices have dropped a little bit, unfortunately, for me, because, yeah, I'm selling mine. Whereas the 997s are more like six-figure cars, at least in excellent condition, usually unmodified. For the 996, I'm asking $50K for it. If I were to ever sell the 997 with its history of being completely rebuilt, though it does have a clean title, this is probably still, I'm probably still asking $90 for it. So it's a big difference in price. But what you guys probably really want to know is how much money I have into each of these cars. And it's probably going to surprise you if you didn't already know. I bought the 996 for about the equivalent of $38,000 because I traded a truck for it. And then with all the work, all the fixes, the paint, the upgrades and everything, I have, not including my discounts or YouTube revenue, I have the equivalent of $87,158 into a 151,000 mile 01 996 turbo, which is ridiculous. It was a terrible investment. But with the 997, I got an absolute steal with this car. It only has 57,000 miles and a clean title, even though it was crashed. This came with a spare chassis, and I spent $34,000 for it. But all in all, total in with this car, including all the mods, upgrades, fixes, paint, etc., similar things to what I did to the 996, I only have $46,760 into this car, approximately. Not counting YouTube revenue, not counting discounted parts and whatnot. So to have a 997 turbo in a manual with a terracotta interior and excellent paint for less than $50K, it's pretty wild. So while I got a smoking deal on the 997, I got screwed on the 996. So they always say the cheapest Porsche or the cheapest BMW or really the cheapest anything ends up being the most expensive. Well, on one hand, that was absolutely true with the 996. I got screwed on that deal, but I learned a lot in the process and I put it on YouTube. With the 997, I bought the absolute cheapest one I could find and it worked out absolutely phenomenally. So I guess it's just luck of the draw. The 997 is just a better car. It's just got nothing on the 997. All right, you've driven both. the 996 and 7. What's your opinion?
This is the better car by far. If I was going to drive a car, the gym, to work, drive it every day, this, hands down, is the car I'm driving.